welcome back to Just One Question, the next generation. And we are back with one of my favorite guests, Eric McNulty, who is here on a rescheduled date. I'll just take the excitement out of that right away, and I'll let him explain why that's important. Eric is the co-author of Your It, Crisis, Change, and How to Lead When It Matters Most. Clearly a book for which the time is right, because if we're not in a crisis now, I don't know what a crisis looks like, or rather more like a series of crises. And just to underline his expertise, he's also the Associate Director of the National Preparedness Leadership Initiative at Harvard. And that one sounds really important. So welcome back, Eric. How are you?
Nick, it's great to be with you. I'm excited to be back. It's actually a good time. The weather's looking good. We're getting back to live events, being back with people. I think it's a terrific time right now.
Excellent, thank you. And so taking that as our page, our cue, what are you excited about these days?
Well, the original date we were going to speak, as you mentioned, was actually Convocation Day at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, where I teach. And one of the things that has me excited are the young people I get to engage with every year doing this. So they are smart, they're dedicated, they're committed to actually tackling the big, tough challenges we face. And that gives me energy. And a lot of the work that I do centers around helping leaders figure out how do you deal with those big, thorny problems of everything from the mega sort of climate change issues to the more day-to-day of how do we get back to work? What's happening here? How are things evolving in terms of hybrid work? And those sort of multi-stakeholder, multi-dimensional problems, how do you think through the different facets and figure out where you need to go and what wants to happen and how you help it get there?
So cool. Thank God, you and your young friends are on the job is all I can say. So
Thank God my young friends are on the job. Yeah.
yeah. So give us one example of an initiative or an idea or an effort that particularly caught your imagination.
One of the students I had to work with this year, in addition to sort of carrying a full load, getting an MPH and doing some other things, has been doing a long-term peace initiative between the Israelis and the Palestinians, working with youth, bringing people together, build relationships, sort of below the political radar, and sort of beginning to knit society together from the bottom up. And it's having really great results. Really difficult work, and that again, that's an issue that's not a new one. It's actually one that's been a bit out of the headlines lately, so it gets less attention. But this sort of move to begin healing things from the bottom up is one that I see consistently, and this is what's got me excited. Again, you see from climate to the great reassessment at work to even things like the Me Too movement. We're not waiting for the quote unquote leaders at the top to figure out what's wrong and tell us where to go. It's people leading from where they are and seeing something that needs to happen and doing something about it. And so, that's just one, and there are others around regenerative agriculture and addressing other issues that people like that they're not afraid of those really tough questions and jumping in and saying, how can we help fix this? And then getting to work.
Yeah, I wonder, you provoked me to ask just one more question. uh, Increasingly undercutting the premise of this exchange, but nonetheless, I'm wondering if your student is finding that it's perhaps in an incredibly difficult and multi-generational conflict there with Israel and Palestine, if it's almost easier to work on that kind of initiative when it is out of the headlines, or if it's just was always hard and will always be hard. Because in some ways the glare of the international media forces at least public statements to go either one extreme or the other. You can't take a middle ground, we find, in our world today, or it's very difficult to.
Yeah, I think what I see driving it and what I see my students working toward is this idea that this problem has to get fixed. You older folks have been talking at it and around it for a long time and playing the power dynamics and a lot of the sort of traditional diplomacy and all that stuff that's been happening forever. And it isn't just Israel, Palestine, it's elsewhere in the world as well.
Hmm.
And it's saying you're not relevant. We need to lead our lives. We want our lives to be better. Therefore, we're going to try and start fixing things where we can with what we have. Um, and I think because I do think we lost the thread along the line of, the goal didn't become getting two people who live next to each other to be able to live with each other, which they actually did once upon a time. It became, we have to get the big agreement. We have to sign the big thing. It became my legacy, and almost got too much invested in the symbolism and not enough in the substance.
Hmm.
And I increasingly find, I say the young people, I'm working with folks in anywhere from their early 20s to early 30s for the most part. They're just saying, screw the symbolism. We need the substance. Let's go get it done. And when you actually start looking at solving the problem,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it is actually easier to make progress because you can get focused on people. People get focused on what can we do, what makes it better, what moves us forward.
It's so beautiful and such a hopeful, optimistic way to think about an intractable problem. So I'm going to leave it there. I won't ask you yet another, just one question, but I thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise and the hope and optimism of your young charges. So thank you, Eric McNulty.
My pleasure. Thank you, Dick.